2023 was a fantastic year as far as DPing and directing short films go. And we're all about learning by doing here. So we are going to look at my personal favorite shots from this year and break down how we use super minimal setups in just good philosophy, good theory, and good technique to hit the moody vibes,
the cinematic vibes, the filmic vibes.
Hit all the buzzwords. Let's get into it. The first set of shots are coming from our short film, The Gray Sea. By the way, if you haven't seen any of these films, I'm putting them all in the description below. Would suggest you watch them. They're a good time. The key light we had here was simply the window at this little tiny B&B we rented for the shoot. We framed up accordingly with the window, especially for my two personal favorite shots, which is the dolly in to set the entire film off, and this wide shot of our main character looking at the bed. We skirted the bed around a little bit and our character around a little bit until we got the shape we wanted, but we were still having our character very much falling into darkness and blending into the background too much. So, using the trusty Amaran 60X, which I've been preaching for a while now, we had the kicker that we needed in order to create an edge light and shape our character even more in order to separate them from the background and have them just pop ever so slightly, but still allow the natural light of the window act as a powerful key source. And because of the simplicity of this setup and the nature of us just simply bouncing the light off of the corner of walls, we were able to put our character wherever we needed and just shift the light accordingly in order to lift the shadows, fill the face, and maintain that cinematic look we were going for in the short film. Did it help we had Cook S4 eyes? Yeah, it helped a little. But no matter the gear you have, the cinema cam you got, or the big fancy lens you got, it's all in the technique and it is all in the shaping of your light. If I had $1 for every time I said making deliberate choices in this channel, I'd be the richest man on YouTube. Next are these intro shots from my documentary, The Last Shot. And this is all about positioning and using gear to your advantage. At Stanley's workbench, he had a very clean LED light, one that I noticed didn't have any flicker and gave off this wonderful tungsten feel to all of the footage. So we rode with that. I set my temperature to better complement the light itself. And in the first wide shot, we had this wonderful separation and color contrast from the back window as we were at about, and it was about, it was getting to dusk, the sun was coming down. So we had this lovely little blue in the back that isn't intrusive, but giving us a nice, calm color contrast. From there, every camera position was for the sake of making sure the shape of that light at the workbench was working well. But more importantly, and this is why I say gear can matter, most of the film was shot on the Ursa Mini Pro, except for the workbench scenes. We shot it on the camera I'm filming on now, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. It's just slightly better in low light. I was able to put the camera to 1250 ISO and get an extremely clean image and really not worry about noise coming from the darkness, especially since I was putting grain into this film. Now I want to talk about the set piece we had for Be Brave. And I can explain the cinematography of this movie in one phrase: pre-production. This film was entirely made by decision-making based on time, location, and the assets that we had available to us. At this time, I had no lights, I had no diffusion, I had literally nothing on me except my camera, batteries, lens, and media to record footage to. That's it. So me and a couple buddies were scouring Airbnb until we found a location that would best suit our lighting purposes. And we came upon this B&B where the master bedroom had literally an entire cove light already built for us. It was like 5 windows set up on the entire part of the room with a little bit coming from adjacent sides. So we essentially were getting cove lights. We put up curtains in order to boost the diffusion, and from there the room was perfectly filled with everything we needed from the shot. And then it was just positioning the characters. I can't stress this enough. Pre-production, knowing your locations, and character position is really what drove 90% of all the cinematography of these shots. Because we had 0 G&E on us, I was able to just move freely in this environment, put up the mirror props easily, and it was so diffused the mirror wasn't even adding that much bounce. We still kept the mood we were going for. The rest of the film itself is simply checking the weather app, checking Sunseeker, and saying, hey, this would be a great time to shoot. Let's try to knock out these scenes at this time. Now, those were all pretty simple looks using minimal element gear, so as a little bonus, Let's talk about a scene from the film I always talk about, recurrence. Our nighttime scene had the most G&E involved. So looking at the setup here, we have our character sitting in the middle of the living room, and from outside the window on the character's right or left, we had a 120D, no light dome, no anything like that, coming through the window. We then had about a quarter silk in which we were pumping the light through, so that we got this nice soft orange flood coming in through the window into the room. We went for more of a tungsten straw look. That was the ambience we were getting naturally from the street lights outside, because we wanted more of that Roger Deakins gold look than we did a purely orange look. We still wanted skin tones to be semi-natural, but man, do I love that gold look for nighttime scenes. And we have a lot of darkness happening for the background, which I like, because I don't want a lot of distractions in my background, but I do agree with separating your character from the background. So like the practices that we did for the Gray Sea, we put up a Westcott panel light, slapped on a grid, because the grid is going to stop spill happening and flooding into little pockets of your room, and it's just controlled on your character. So with the grid on the panel, we set it to a low percentage and a slightly more daylight balance than what was coming through the window for the slightest touch of color separation. Nothing crazy. We didn't want a lot of blues bleeding in, just a nice little silver on the back of our character to separate them from the background. And then of course, our wonderful teammate Brandon Klein was out back, freezing his ass off, rotating the 120D, because we're bad people and we prefer art over hypothermia. Nah, he was fine, I think. Yeah, he was fine. And then from there, we just backed the Westcott a little more away, and then with the lighthouse effect, we now had a playground. And when I get to this place where the lighting setup we have is that of a playground, and we have the freedom to just go around and shoot, that's the best. We covered the whole scene in a half hour, but we did take a good hour and a half to set up the lights and be happy with a more built out set. Because we took that time to build out the lights, the execution was easy. And if I could sum up all of this, if you plan, you coordinate with your team, and you use simple but well thought out techniques to make this playground for your film, you will find that the pre-production is smooth, even if it takes an extra half hour or an hour, because the execution phase becomes the easiest part of your film. If you like what you're seeing, please comment and like below. I love having conversations with you guys about what works, what doesn't work, or ideas that you have maybe for the shots that you saw that maybe you would tweak, or what is your style? I love to hear it. Continue to grow through doing and learning from others and learning from yourself. And remember, if you want to see any of these short films, we got them in the description below. This has been Davis, again with The Six Shop. Goodbye.